print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Will Evans, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. And we'll begin with a commentary from the opinion page. This is written by Roland Kidder, who's a Stowe resident and a Vietnam veteran. We should know wars are hard to end. It is easy to start a war, but very difficult to end one. That has always been the case and still is. If you are in doubt, just ask Vladimir Putin how things are going in the war he started in Ukraine 4 years ago. Think about the Iraq War. We invaded Iraq in 2003. Saddam Hussein was finally captured and eventually executed. But here we are in 2026, having lost 4,500 American lives and having spent $1 trillion or more with troops still in Iraq, a country with a weak government trying to rebuild itself. The war I was involved in, Vietnam, started in 1964, but at least it began with a joint resolution of Congress, not by presidential fiat. It officially ended for us in 1973, with 58,000 American war dead as testimony to it. As a veteran, I have written before in this space about the realities of war. When you are in one, you soon realize war is caused by failure. Negotiations have failed, diplomacy has failed, communication has failed, keeping the peace has failed. Sometimes wars are unavoidable, but every effort should be made to avoid them. Wars are an admission of failure. I was hoping that President Trump's decision to bomb the main operational center where Iran was making its atomic bomb last year would end, at least for now, concerns about Iran making a nuclear weapon. Trump certainly suggested that in his comments that, as a result of that attack, Iran's nuclear program had been totally obliterated. But easy success often doesn't lead to caution. Now, with only Israel as an ally, we have committed thousands of American troops, aircraft, and naval forces to commence what could be another long-term war in the Middle East. Wars are not only hard to end, but they are unpredictable. There is no doubt that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was a tyrant. Hopes are that somehow better leadership will rise up in Iran. But will it? Some in Iran are rejoicing in the streets. Others are demonstrating in support of the supreme leader who was killed. Iran could end up with worse leadership or with a prolonged leadership struggle. Just think of what would happen in this country if our president, vice president, and many of our leaders were killed. It would create a leadership vacuum even here. It is an unsettling time to be an American. Our country, with only one ally, has now made a decision to become fully involved in changing the government of Iran. And we are told this can be done without sending in troops on the ground. How does that work? Sadly, the Trump administration is striking out again on its own. Where will it end? We don't know. What we do know is that wars are easy to start, but hard to end. Our next article carries the headline, Ferguson Defends New Police Site Plan. Fredonia Mayor Michael Ferguson punched back Monday against an Observer editorial criticizing his plan for a new Fredonia Police Department building next to the village fire department. Ferguson took time at a Board of Trustees workshop to defend against the editorial. This administration has gone beyond trying to find ways to roll projects into one another to save the taxpayer money. I am a taxpayer. Everyone in this room is a Fredonia taxpayer, the mayor began. Trust us when we say no one's spending frivolously here, Ferguson continued. In fact, connecting the police department to an existing building like the fire department would probably be the cheapest, most effective way of building a new police department that is woefully needed. The editorial, published Saturday, suggested that any hopes for North County mergers of police departments will vanish if Ferguson's plan is enacted. Ferguson replied, "We are unsure of continued discussions to merge police departments at this time. It's certainly something we're considering. But no matter what we do, even if we did consolidate, you need a headquarters. I'm quite sure that Dunkirk would have one. We would have one." Ferguson expressed his consternation about the editorial to the Observer at a separate event before the trustees' workshop. He was asked about the possibility of retrofitting one of the large vacant buildings at the DNF Plaza for a new police station. Ferguson responded that his plan would cost less. The mayor also addressed the issue during his statement at the trustees' workshop. "When you compare the cost of retrofitting compared to adding onto a building that already exists, I ask, who's really saving the taxpayers' money? My phone rings both ways. I'm happy to talk about it long before articles are written." Moving over to Sherman now, Merger Forum touches on misinformation. A merged Clymer, Sherman, and Panama school district should not affect non-resident students or the Amish. What happens with tuition and non-resident students was among the questions asked by Sherman residents during a community forum Monday regarding a possible merged district. Tuition and non-resident students are included in the study numbers, and the new board would decide on those students for sure. But if all three districts had non-resident students, they would most likely be able to continue similar to now. Linda Quick, with study consulting firm White and Partners, said they had received a similar question earlier about if non-resident students will still be able to attend BOCES and receive special education to the same degree, which they will. "I think there was some misinformation out in the community that non-resident students don't have the same right to attend with resident students for BOCES programming," Quick said. "Not true. The rights are exactly the same. So, if a non-resident student were to enroll here and wants to go to a BOCES program, they would be able to participate just like any resident student of Sherman." Other questions arose about the guarantee of the merger money from the state if the state got themselves into financial trouble. Quick said merger money is probably more secure than any foundation aid and is a separate thing. Merger incentive aid allocates $68 to $71 million from the state for a merged district over 14 years. White and Partners will also give suggestions in the study on how to allocate the extra money that will be coming in and how to set some aside for the 15th year after the money stops coming in and the schools need to transition away from that. Quick added that this money will be enough to continue to easily pay the bills for this district, as it is about 3 times more than current individual budgets. They have also approached and talked with the Amish communities in the area that will be affected, and private schools will still receive the same services as well. When talking with students, Quick said what they have heard the most is that students want more opportunities and to enhance the opportunities that they already have. Additionally, she said some expressed that they feel exposure to a slightly bigger class and more of these opportunities would be good for them. And while students express their love for their individual communities, they also want more opportunities. Many questions were raised about facilities and how the 3 current facilities may be used if they were not going to be used in the merger. And Quick said that will be included in recommendations to the boards from the study, but added that each building currently has its own unique things. Questions on staffing and what will happen with the Board of Education were also brought up. Quick said some things may take longer to configure than September of next year, but for staffing, only the superintendent is going to need to apply again, and a new staff will not be hired, with existing staff becoming part of the new district. Seniority will also be kept for staff. Returning to the building and facilities question, Quick said if the boards decide a new building is the direction they want to go in, it has to be approved by the community through a vote just like any other capital project. Any official decisions with what to do with the buildings will not be made until after the official merger vote, as Quick said no steps for that can be made until the merger is official. But again, recommendations for that will be included with the study. The boards will then be tasked with exploring the options and deciding the best place for kids to go. For the new school board itself, she said it is required that a board of education has either 5, 7, or 9 members, and there is no rule that each community will have the same amount of people on the new board, but there can be a gentleman's agreement that makes that so. It is also likely that existing board members will make up the new board, as they have experience and will know the amount of work that will be involved. Transportation options will also be included in the final study report, including how long bus rides may be. Another question was raised about how students will be able to be transported and get to the same place at the same time, as it was said that would be almost impossible. Staggered start times are the way most merged districts have figured out how to manage busing better, Quick said. Some of it is double tripping, or adjusting the length of runs, or starting your days at different times, which allows you to transport better. Dan White, also with White and Partners, emphasized that in regards to facilities, they have heard comments and concerns multiple times, and that each of the boards are very aware of these concerns. Part of the report will be advisory on what things will need to be addressed with the community, and facilities are a part of that. Other questions and items discussed by the Sherman community in attendance included what happens to teachers. Quick said no teachers should expect to lose their jobs, and while the new district will not need 3 algebra teachers, for example, there will then be the option of having those teachers teach other classes that they are not currently able to offer. This includes areas such as languages and the ability to offer other levels of Spanish or different languages as well. Electric buses will also be included in the study, though it was noted that there is currently a pushback on the required timeline from the state on those. The ability to offer certain programs such as BOCES options earlier for younger students instead of just juniors and seniors, and the ability for enrollment to increase and the way a new district may be able to attract students were also discussed by attendees before the forum was wrapped up. Other questions in regards to the merger can be emailed to csp.study@e2ccb.org. The third and final community forum will be held for the Panama community on March 11th at Panama Central School at 7 p.m. Quick and White opened the Sherman Forum with an informational presentation before the forum was open to questions. White noted a feasibility study is the first step that is required by New York State anytime school districts are considering merging. He emphasized that no decisions are made during the study and that White and Partners provide analysis and recommendations to each of the 3 boards of education. Quick addressed the scope of their work for the study, which includes looking at 7 elements: enrollment, instructional programs and opportunities, including extracurriculars, facilities and food service, student transportation, staffing, financial and economic analysis of a merger, and community and school culture. Attendees were shown the merger study timeline, which extends from January to June 15th, which is the day the final report from the study is set to be presented to the 3 school boards. Quick briefly discussed leadership and steering committee meetings, which are ongoing, and the reports that will be delivered at the end of the study. 4 reports will be delivered in all, 1 to the public and 3 to the individual boards, which will look at what the future of each school looks like if they continue unmerged. Following the study timeline, Quick also shared the timeline for after, which will include information and public meetings between the June 15th report date and October straw vote. We hand over the feasibility study, which is a required part of the process, and then I say the real work begins, because the boards then begin to make some decisions and decide how they want to move forward for each of their communities, Quick said. The decision to continue to move forward with the merger will be made by the boards in June and July, and informational public meetings, along with a lot of pushing information out to the respective communities, will follow that until the potential straw vote in October. The straw vote is to gauge the interest from the communities to merge, a required step in the process that is not binding. Only the Commissioner of Education in New York State can order a binding merger vote, and she will not order it unless the three communities are interested in that happening, Quick said. She does the straw vote to gauge interest, and if it is a positive result in the three districts, she will then order that the binding vote occur. The tentative binding vote could be held in December 2026, and if that passes, then the districts are considered merged effective July 1st, 2027. Quick also noted a few points along the way where some directions may change. In June and July, if any of the three boards decide they do not want to continue forward with the merger, it can continue ahead with the other two at that point in time. If the straw vote ends up with only two districts in support, again, it is possible to choose to move forward with only two districts at that time as well. Some implications and financial items would change with the feasibility study, but Quick said these 2 points in time are where the schools could potentially change direction. Quick then showed attendees the results of February's community survey with the same results numbers that were shown at the Climber Forum. 798 responses overall from all three districts. 280 of the survey participants strongly agreed that a merger is a good idea today. 161 agreed. 178 did not know. 76 disagreed, and 109 strongly disagreed. The total number of respondents from Climber was 258, Sherman 224, and Panama 316. I did read the Facebook page from the Jamestown paper. Why is that number at the top different? Quick said. This says 798 answered and 8 skipped. So if you total that, it's 806. Not everybody had to answer every question, so the top will vary a little bit from 6 to 8. It's just the way people answered the survey. More information on the merger study process can be found on each district's website or by visiting csphub.org. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Traveling to Silver Creek now, Silver Creek hears more on code concerns. Residents have not been afraid to address the Silver Creek Village Board regarding unkempt properties that violate the village codes. The two residents who have been most vocal, Anna Fredrickson and Jim Castiglia, were both at a recent meeting with more reason for concern following an unexpected vacancy. Somewhere along the line, we've got to get on top of this thing. We're down below now. We've got to get on top of it and get these properties cleaned up, Fredrickson said. Jordan Nowdasher is no longer acting as the full-time code enforcement officer for the town of Hanover, which shares code enforcement duties with the village of Silver Creek. Hanover Town Supervisor Lou Pelletier did not comment on the matter further because Nowdasher's departure is deemed a personnel issue. Nowdasher earned an hourly rate of $26.02 in the role of code enforcement officer, while Vince Gugluzia receives $25 per hour on a part-time basis. Jean Ebersole, town assessor, was recently appointed as a code enforcement officer at will, as needed, at a rate of $100 per month. Gugliuzza and Ebersole are both available for any drastic issues that arise, but one part-time employee and an assessor that shares the duties of several municipalities already likely cannot handle the workload of both the town of Hanover and the village of Silver Creek on a permanent basis. In an effort to address the matter further, a week after Fredrickson and Castiglia addressed the Silver Creek Village Board, the town of Hanover appointed Alex Fensky as a full-time temporary property maintenance enforcement officer at a rate of $23 per hour. Fenske is currently undergoing training. The town is also canvassing the area for civil service approved candidates for the role of code enforcement officer. Hanover is not alone when it comes to searching for a full-time code enforcement officer. Several municipalities have been in search of code enforcement officers in recent months, including the village of Brockton and the town of Portland, who share duties similar to how Hanover and Silver Creek do. It is tough to get a good code enforcement officer, and if a municipality has a good one, they don't want to leave, said trustee Jeff Hornberg. In the couple instances, when the good ones leave, they don't want to go someplace else. Mayor Kathy Tampio recently met with mayors across Chautauqua County and Mayville, along with representatives from Chautauqua County. Tampio stated that the issue of code enforcement was one of several concerns raised at the meeting. Tampio said the topic of code enforcement on a countywide level was discussed as well. It's a common challenge that every village faces, Tampio said. From her recent meeting, Tampio brought back a resolution for the board to adopt in support of increased aid to municipalities in the spirit of strengthening New York's state-to-local partnership. The resolution stated, New York's strength begins in its cities, villages, and towns. The resolution applauds Governor Kathy Hochul for reaffirming her commitment to invest in local governments by allocating an additional $100 million in temporary municipal assistance, just as she has for the past 2 years, in the statewide executive budget. The additional funding is to be used to address fiscal challenges to maintain essential services for residents. The Silver Creek Village Board passed the resolution unanimously. Additionally, Hornberg reported that he is researching the potential purchase of a new sweeper truck for the village. Hornberg said the prices are exorbitant, but the equipment is necessary for the village. The village has received quotes for the replacement of the pavilion located at George Borrello Park. The board anticipates ruling on the matter at an upcoming meeting. The board also approved a request from the Hanover Little League for use of the village ballpark for T-ball on Wednesdays from 5 to 7 p.m. between April 27th to June 14th. The next mobile food pantry event, sponsored by the Silver Creek Food Pantry, the Village of Silver Creek, and Feed More Western New York, will be on Tuesday, March 24th from 11 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. at the Village Municipal Parking Lot. The event is free of charge to residents of Silver Creek and other nearby communities. The village appreciates and welcomes all volunteers. Again, that's the Silver Creek Food Pantry, the Village of Silver Creek, and Feed More Western New York, and will be on Tuesday, March 24th from 11 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. at the Village Municipal Parking Lot. Next up, we'll turn to Mayville. 3 CLCS alumni return to district to teach. Next fall, the Chautauqua Lake Central School District will see 3 familiar faces return to their halls as 3 alumni have officially been appointed to teaching positions for the next school year. The Chautauqua Lake Board of Education appointed Jacqueline Doyle, a 2017 graduate, Lily Woodus, a 2022 graduate, and Hannah Group, a 2023 graduate, into educator positions at their February board meeting. Chautauqua Lake administrators said these new hirees are a testament to the strength of the local community and the lasting impact of its teachers, and shows that Chautauqua Lake is a place students are proud to call home and return to even after graduation. We are beyond proud of these 3 alumni and so happy to welcome them back to the Chautauqua Lake family as members of our teaching staff, Superintendent Joshua Liddell said. Watching them return as colleagues is a truly special moment for our entire school community. When our graduates choose to return and build their careers here, it demonstrates that the foundation we build in our classrooms endures, empowering students not only to succeed wherever life leads them, but to come back and serve and hopefully inspire others in the place they've always called home. Their return not only strengthens our school today, but also serves as a powerful reminder that the investment we make in our students can come full circle. For elementary principal Megan Lundgren, young alumni bring a unique and meaningful connection to today's students. Young alumni bridge the generation gap in a way that staff members often can't, Lundgren said. They bring an immediate cultural relevancy. They know the same local parks, played for the same youth leagues, and went through the same school traditions. There is a profound personal investment in the success of the school because it is part of their own identity. They share stories of, when I sat in that exact desk, which builds an incredible sense of belonging and continuity for our current kids. And for other administrators, such as secondary principal Rachel Curtin, the return of recent graduates to come work at the school is both professional validation and a deeply personal milestone for staff. Curtin said it means a lot to the teachers to have their former students join them in the same calling. For our teachers and colleagues, having our recent graduates find their professional calling with us is tremendously meaningful, Curtin shared. Teachers invest so much in their students, modeling leadership, passion for learning, and a commitment to growing our community. When students join you in that same calling, it feels like validation of that work, and also a beautiful opportunity to mentor and learn from the next generation of educators. And I'll admit, there's a personal moment in it too. We look around and think, wow, that went fast. Doyle returns to the district in an art teacher position. For her, the opportunity feels like a true full circle moment, and one she said she is excited for. Returning to CLCS as an art educator is both a full circle moment and a tremendous honor, Doyle said. During my time here, countless teachers profoundly shaped not only my academic journey, but my character. They created classrooms that were vibrant spaces where curiosity was encouraged, creativity was celebrated, and challenges were seen as opportunities for growth. That encouragement, creativity, and challenges helped to develop Doyle's confidence in herself and a passion for lifelong learning. This passion eventually led her to build her own teaching career in art. That foundation inspired me to build a career where art and mentorship intersect, Doyle said. I am deeply grateful for the experience CLCS gave me, and I'm excited for the opportunity to return and contribute to a program and school culture that means so much to me. It's a privilege to now support students the way my teachers once supported me. As another returning alumni, Wotus said coming back to teach at Chautauqua Lake has a very personal meaning for her. She credits her teachers and mentors not only for her academic success, but for inspiring her career path. Coming back home means the absolute world to me, Woodus said. Chautauqua Lake has played such a significant role in making me the person I am today, and I am so beyond grateful to be able to give back to this district. They helped me succeed academically, but also inspired me to pursue a career where I could make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. My hope is to provide the same sense of encouragement, belonging, and inspiration that my teachers gave to me. Coming back home allows me to continue a legacy of care, dedication, and community pride that I am proud to be a part of again. Similarly, Group said returning to the district, especially so soon after graduation, means a lot. Returning to CLCS so soon after graduation feels incredibly meaningful because this school has always been more than just a place to learn. It has truly helped shape who I am today, Group said. Coming back as an elementary teacher is a true full circle moment, especially getting to work alongside the teachers who once inspired and supported me. It is an honor to now have the opportunity to give back to the community that gave so much to me and to help the next generation of students learn and grow. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Hanover approves comprehensive plan. After many months and countless discussions, the town of Hanover finally established a document to define its community as a whole as it officially accepted and adopted the newly created comprehensive plan. The Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee hosted several open meetings to receive public input while the plan was being drafted. Town Board member Amy Rogers, Imagine Forestville president, took a leading role in the process alongside Rick Klizowitz, chairman of the Planning Board. The Town Board expressed gratitude to the steering committee for its work on the comprehensive plan. Looking forward to a grant for the hamlet of Forestville, the town of Hanover approved a contract with Heritage Resources of Buffalo for grant administrative services at a cost not to exceed $30,000 pertaining to the town's Main Street Commercial Property Improvement Grant of $497,751 from the New York State Housing and Community Renewal Program. The town board appointed Rogers, Supervisor Lou Pelletier, and several community members, including Kim Woodward, Carol Woodward, Merv Fry, and Nancy Adams Fry, among others, as administrators of the grant. Also of note, the Forestville Historic District was recently approved by the state of New York and now proceeds to the national level. The board also approved the purchase of flags for the festivities of America's 250th anniversary, not to exceed $1,000. For emergency response purposes, a portion of Stebbins Road to the Hanford Road/Angell Road intersection, previously known as Hanford Road, was officially renamed as Angell Road. The portion of the road from Stebbins Road to the former village of Forestville, where Pearl Street begins, was officially renamed as Dennison Road. The town board approved the hiring of Kristen Meyer as a full-time court clerk at a rate of $20 per hour. The town board also reappointed Cynthia Sheedy to the Board of Assessment Review for a 5-year term retroactive to October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2030. A payment of $5,000 to Evergreen Lawn Cemetery for general budgetary expenses and insurance premiums was also approved by the town as budgeted for. Additionally, Tim Neerhoof will install bollards at the town hall parking lot to protect the building from being struck by a vehicle. Sandra Goddard was approved by the board to participate in Wreaths Across America, where wreaths will be placed on the graves of veterans buried at Rathburn Cemetery in December. The wreaths will be removed in the spring of 2027. Western New York Prism was authorized by the board to conduct voluntary boat inspections at the Hanover boat launch from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend. The Aquatic Invasive Species Program will remove visible aquatic plants and animals from watercraft while educating about invasive species. The town has reached out to Congressman Nick Langworthy's office for assistance with dredging the area around its boat launch in time for the beach opening this summer. The next meeting of the Hanover Town Board is scheduled for Monday, March 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Hanover Town Hall. Moving back to the opinion page now, we have a couple articles. Our first one is written by Thomas Kirkpatrick Sr. Erie Canal puts state on path for prosperity. I recently read The Mohawk by Codman Hislop, who taught American civilization at Union College in Schenectady, New York. The book, originally published in 1948, is the story of the Mohawk Valley and its river from prehistoric times up to the post-World War II period, with a large section devoted to the history of the Erie Canal. Canals and their construction were common topics in the early history of our nation as a way of connecting the original states along the eastern seaboard to the Northwest Territory and the states being created there that would include Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and part of Minnesota. The Mohawk Valley was the best location for the Erie Canal because it provided the only natural, low-elevation, sea-level gap through the Appalachian Mountains. This unique geography, carved by glacial meltwater, allowed for a direct 363-mile water route connecting the Hudson River to the Great Lakes. The Erie Canal was the first major infrastructure project in the history of America. A major challenge in building the Erie Canal was that the United States didn't have a single college of engineering or any native-born engineers. An attempt was made to hire European engineers, but they were either too busy, too expensive, or didn't want any part of what seemed a crazy scheme. Therefore, the canal commissioners had no choice but to hire an amateur crew of self-taught local engineers that included a few inexperienced surveyors and one math teacher. The two chief engineers were Benjamin Wright and James Geddes, lawyer by trade, who learned how to survey by prosecuting land disputes. Construction of the canal began in 1817, with ground broken in Rome, New York. This was because the 98-mile section of the Erie Canal between Rome and Syracuse required no locks and was known as the Long Level. Completed in October 1819, this flat, lock-free stretch was constructed first to quickly prove the viability of Clinton's Ditch. The Erie Canal was not built using bulldozers or earth movers, but by thousands of laborers, many of them Irish immigrants, using basic tools like pickaxes, shovels, and black powder to carve a 363-mile, 4-foot-deep channel across New York. Workers also devised and employed stump pullers, animal-powered scrapers. I lived much of my youth in Fort Plain, a Mohawk Valley village beside the New York State Barge Canal and remnants of the Erie Canal. Back in the day, it would have been described as a canal town, with several canal stores catering to the needs of the boatmen, and with lift bridges over the canal for wagon and foot traffic. Its main street was Canal Street, and the backs of commercial establishments on the north side of that street came within mere feet of the canal. These buildings had, and most still remain, hoists to lift goods from the boat to a warehouse. The village is Fort Plain, named for the popular name of the Revolutionary War fortification, officially Fort Rensselaer, that stood on a hill to the northwest of the present village overlooking the Mohawk River. With the coming of the Erie Canal, the village developed around Otsquago Creek at its confluence with the Mohawk River. Fort Plain became an incorporated village in 1832. When the canal was completed in 1825, Fort Plain, like many other canal towns, celebrated. It is said that at one celebration, a local hotel provided a sumptuous buffet set out on a 60-foot-long table. Naturally, the meal was accompanied with large amounts of beer, wine, and spirits, causing a local schoolmaster, so the tale goes, to hop on the table and begin dancing. The table collapsed with the food falling to the floor. They must have already eaten their fill, though, because the schoolmaster was loudly cheered. One evening, some days later, the canal boat Seneca Chief, carrying New York Governor George Clinton and his party, arrived in Fort Plain. The governor was amazed at the sight of what appeared to be fiery blazes hanging in the sky above the village, only to be told that several boys had climbed Prospect Hill 200 feet above the village and raised flaming barrels of pitch on poles to mark the occasion. Shortly thereafter, another schoolmaster arrived on board the Seneca Chief in an inebriated state to deliver a speech of welcome and fell headfirst into the canal. Apparently, schoolmasters in those days were not proficient at holding their liquor. In the years following the opening of the canal, several knitting mills, a furniture factory, several wagon makers, and an iron foundry were established in Fort Plain near the canal, giving them ready access to raw materials shipped on the canal and the shipping of finished goods. The Erie Canal's 1825 opening triggered explosive growth in New York, with Buffalo's population increasing over sixfold from 2,412 in 1825 to 15,661 by 1835. Cities along the route like Utica, Syracuse, Rochester, grew roughly 20-fold between 1820 and 1840, transforming from small outposts into major commercial centers. Early remnants of the canal still exist within Fort Plain. Remnants of Canal Lock 32 and a viaduct that carried the canal across Otsquago Creek still exist in a neighborhood called Lockville. Except for a stretch of dry ditch in the western part of the village, most of the canal was filled in after the opening of the barge canal in 1918. But as you stand by that dry ditch on a summer day, it is possible to imagine a canal boat pulled by a team of horses or mules approaching through the water. For those interested in reading about life on and along the canal, I would suggest several books by author Walter D. Edmonds. These are Rome Hall, a portion of everyday life on the canal, Erie Water, a story about the canal's construction, and Mostly Canalers, a collection of short stories about the canal. Turning to our next article, which is written by Marcy O'Brien, Rounding Third, Life Advice from a Wise Old Frog. When I hop to my computer each morning, I promise myself I won't fritter away my time. Forget about it. I get some of my best ideas while frittering. On Monday, I didn't have frittering time to spare. I was cleaning up some of my messier computer files when I stumbled across an article I copied last May from the Baltimore Sun newspaper. I had completely forgotten about it. Upon reading, I knew why I kept it. It brought back a lot of fun memories. It is about one of my favorite people, Kermit the Frog, star of stage, screen, and swamp. Yes, Kermit acts like he is one of us, but although he is an amphibian descent, he did an exceptional job imitating a wise person at the University of Maryland's last commencement. And for once, he didn't have that shameless hussy, Miss Piggy, along for the occasion. Jim Henson, the creative genius and inventor of the Muppets, graduated from the University of Maryland in 1960. As I noted that date, I realized that Henson probably first made Kermit, who is now 70 years old, when he was still in high school. Kermit's original eyes were a ping-pong ball cut in half, and he was made from Jim's grandmother's old coat. What an extraordinary imagination Jim had. The university has honored him, and Kermit, with a bronze statue on campus. The duo also hold their star together on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like Walt Disney and Mickey. Kermit has aged well. He has very few wrinkles and doesn't look a day over 68. Felt does press up nicely. I remember vividly when Kermit entered our family's life. In 1973, my daughter was a toddler, and we sat together to watch Sesame Street every afternoon. It was a great time for me to fold laundry, cut out coupons, or snap green beans for dinner. My girl sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the television in rapt attention. She loved Big Bird, Grover, even Oscar the Grouch, although she didn't understand why he was so mad all the time. But like me, Kermit was her favorite. She talked to all of them like any playmate, and she asked me an awful lot of frog questions. My mother watched this daily ritual during one of her regular visits. When she arrived the next time, she asked for some help with the big box in the car trunk. "What's this about, Mom?" "Well, I think it's sinful that my granddaughter is watching Sesame Street in black and white. So I took care of it." It was our first color television set. The box held a 25-inch RCA XL100, the flagship color television model introduced in 1971. Color TV had entered a new era with this technology, and I had to admit she was right. It made all the difference in everything we watched. Those were magical years. We lived way out in the Connecticut countryside, and yet my only child had her built-in electronic playmates. She learned her alphabet and numbers a year before preschool, and Kermit taught kindness. I love that. As we read to her each night, she was an active participant. As a first-time mother, I was delighted with everything about Sesame Street's lessons. When UMD announced Kermit as their graduation speaker, he was described as an environmental advocate, a best-selling author, an international superstar, and a champion of creativity, kindness, and believing in the impossible. I had started out thinking he was just a song and dance man. To the graduates, the beloved Muppet said, "As you prepare to take this big leap into real life, here's a little advice, if you're willing to listen to a frog. Rather than jumping over someone to get what you want, consider reaching out your hand and taking the leap side by side, because life is better when we leap together." Then he added, "Find your people. Some of your lifelong friends are sitting with you now, and more are waiting." He emphasized the importance of meaningful, trusted connections with those friends, your family, and your dreams. Kermit ended with, "Life's like a movie. Start with the dream and write your own ending. Like today, you've all done just what you set out to do, and you're only getting started." I knew that frog was smart. His childlike wisdom, his mantra of kindness, is the foundation for building a good life. Jim Henson, the real genius behind Kermit's insight, died at age 53, a serious loss. He would be 89 today. In his shortened lifetime, he created recognizable characters, good and not so good, with playfulness. Millions of us, both kids and parents, smile when we see Jim's Muppets. We know they're real. They're us. Thank you, Jim and Kermit. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Heading over to Ripley now, proposed gravel pit in Ripley area creates concerns. Some Ripley and Westville residents are speaking out against a proposed gravel pit. A 15-page letter with 13 signatures was submitted to the Chautauqua County Planning Board over the proposed Ripley gravel mine by Jamestown Macadam, Inc. Jamestown Macadam is seeking a special use permit from the Ripley Town Board for a sand and gravel mine at 9087 Old Route 20, Ripley. The application went before the County Planning Board for its approval. The application did not have a completed state environmental quality review study, and therefore the Planning Board did not vote on the project's approval at its recent meeting. In the letter, residents expressed concerns about impacts to groundwater supply, impact to local farms, noise impacts, dust, visual impacts, stormwater impacts, increased truck traffic, reduced neighborhood safety, and the overall degradation of the quality of life for residents of the region. Glenn Laurie, who was one of the individuals who signed the letter, spoke at the Planning Board meeting. "We're all concerned about the quality and quantity of our water," he said. Planning Board Chairman Doug Bowman is a former supervisor for the town of Ripley. He said this proposal has been around for a few years. It was discussed in 21 and 22, so it's been hanging out there for a while. They can't seem to get their ducks in a row to provide information, he said. Planning Board member Jeff Gossett said there's about a dozen residents who live nearby, and their quality of life can be affected. The first thing that comes to my mind is dust. There's noise when you're crushing gravel, screening it, and washing it. God knows how many trucks will be in and out of there every day, he said. The proposed operations run from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. from April until the fall. That's just a huge burden on people who live out there, Gossett said. Once the application is complete, the County Planning Board will vote on the project. If the County Planning Board votes against it, it doesn't stop the project, but it would require a supermajority of the Ripley Town Board for a special use permit. If the County Planning Board votes in favor, the Ripley Town Board would still have the final say, but would only need a majority of votes. Community wellness event planned for April. Erie 2 Chautauqua Cattaraugus BOCES is partnering with Chautauqua Health and Fitness to host a community wellness event on Friday, April 24th from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The event will be at Chautauqua Health and Fitness, 1170 Central Avenue, Dunkirk, with support from a $1,000 service learning mini grant from the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation. The grant helped purchase an in-body 120 body composition analyzer, which will be used during the event. Students from E2CCB's Sports Conditioning and Exercise Science and Health Careers programs at the Logidius Educational Center will assist under the guidance of their instructors and Chautauqua Health and Fitness professionals. They will help with check-in, registration, health and fitness screenings, and provide educational resources, all free to attendees. The event is open to adults 18 and older from Dunkirk and the surrounding communities. Available screenings and services include blood pressure checks, body composition assessments with the in-body analyzer, basic fitness evaluations to gauge activity levels, dynamic posture assessments to identify musculoskeletal imbalances, handouts with tips on healthy eating, exercise, and local wellness resources. Chautauqua Health and Fitness is providing the facility and professional staff support to ensure all screenings and educational materials meet industry standards. Cleon Clayton, sports conditioning and exercise science instructor, said the event aims to raise awareness of personal health, promote active lifestyles, and provide residents with practical tools to support overall well-being. It also gives our students hands-on experience in community service and leadership development, Clayton said, thanking the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation for its support. The in-body 120 analyzer offers a quick breakdown of body composition, including muscle mass, body fat, BMI, visceral fat levels, and segmental lean analysis. For more information, contact Chautauqua Health and Fitness at 716-363-6383 or Cleon Clayton at 716-672-4371, extension 2009. Again, those numbers for Chautauqua Health and Fitness, 716-363-6383, or Cleon Clayton at 716-672-4371, extension 2009. Karen Eggstrom, a town of Chautauqua resident, writes our next article, State Ignores Wind Storage Warnings. County legislators are questioning the logic of the state energy policy that has been careening toward higher utility rates, higher taxes, and the use of vast areas of agricultural land, wetlands, and woodlands that are cleared for projects that make very little power. Why does the state continue to push these things when there is so much scientific documentation that says there are harmful long-term effects? There are so many related health concerns and public safety issues regarding new 600-foot wind turbines and battery energy storage installations. Don't they negate each other? Asked legislator John Penhollow during a legislator committee recently. Special interests, Senator George Borrello answered. Instead of investing in cleaner, reliable energy using natural gas, hydropower, and nuclear, the governor chose to shutter power plants, an emissions shell game, actually increasing emissions outside our state, a reckless, costly agenda designed to appease special interests at the expense of taxpayers and ratepayers. Our energy situation is so bad that the energy experts at the New York Independent System Operator, or NYISO, are sounding the alarm that New York may face energy shortages, brownouts. As a person who has lived near one of these windmills, said County Legislator Daniel Pavlock, I used to be under the assumption of being one who said, who am I to say what a neighbor can do with their land? Well, it directly affects you. It flickers. They are noisy. And it really isn't the prettiest thing. I was not peaceful to live there, and I moved. The town of Hanover has voiced opposition to a proposed battery change storage development, legislator Tom Harmon said. It is too close to the school, which is our evacuation site. Does anyone know the size of these things? Each is the size of a tractor trailer, and they want to put 250 of these things in our area. And the fire hazard for our volunteer fire departments. We don't have the training or equipment locally anywhere. The state's own health, environmental, agricultural, and engineering experts have testified to the harms caused. These include industrial wind. Regarding the negative human health effects of industrial wind, research scientists of the New York State Department of Health, Henry Spitaloff, said, if a wind facility is not properly sited or operated, there is potential for the turbine noise to impact the health and well-being of nearby residents. Recognized health-related effects of audible noise include annoyance, sleep disturbance, cognitive performance reduction, effects on social behavior, cardiovascular effects, and psychophysiological effects. Splithoff testified before the New York State Board on Electric Generating, Siting, and the Environment. 6 county health boards in western New York have recommended to protect the health of our residents and our environment. This board urges local municipalities to pass a proper wind law that restricts IWTs, industrial wind turbines, to a minimum of 1.5 miles from any property line and 35 or fewer decibels in sound frequency. This recommendation has been ignored by developers who have been able to dictate the installation parameters to maximize their profits, disregarding the impacts on human health. Battery Energy Storage Systems, BESS, data was provided to the County Health Board by Chautauqua County aerospace engineer Don Rice, who speaks from experience regarding BESS hazards. Battery Energy Storage Systems, BESS, which rely on lithium-ion technology, pose serious public safety risks that are being inadequately addressed as these facilities proliferate across New York State. A grid-scale BESS fire cannot be contained. Containment increases the risk of explosion. As more containers enter thermal runaway, large quantities of hazardous gases are released, including hydrogen, carbon monoxide, methane, ethylene, hydrogen fluoride, which forms hydrofluoric acid, hydrochloric acid, hydrogen cyanide, volatile organic compounds, and particulates. Once contamination enters the water table, it can migrate for years. Cleanup is extremely difficult and in many cases impossible. Cooling is mandatory. Containment of runoff is mandatory. Evacuation planning is mandatory. Developers proposed 600-foot wind turbines in Stockton, Ellery, North Harmony, Sherman, Westfield, and Ripley. Battery Energy Storage System, BESS, installations are being proposed for many locations around the county in close proximity to schools, hospitals, and homes, and could be catastrophic to our communities. State Department of Agriculture and Markets. Grid-scale solar is a threat to agricultural productivity, as prime farmland is often purchased or leased for solar panels, permanently removing it from food production. New York towns that recognize the danger of thermal runaway, BESS fires, have passed laws prohibiting the installation of battery energy storage systems in their towns, including Amsterdam in Montgomery County, Duanesburg and Princetown in Schenectady County, Rush in Monroe County, Glen in Montgomery County, Somerset and Royalton in Niagara County, Sheridan in Chautauqua County. The state's energy policies endanger the environment, the economy, public health, and safety. There is no justification for unreliable, intermittent energy here when natural gas, hydro, and nuclear provide viable options. The negatives outweigh the claimed benefits. That again was written by Karen Eggstrom of Chautauqua. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer. We read from the Dunkirk Observer every Saturday at noon. Your reader has been Will Evans. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of our Northtown Bee papers, which includes Amherst, Clarence, Cheektowaga, Depew, and Lancaster. At 2 o'clock, we have our Southtown papers, which is the Orchard Park Bee, East Aurora Bee, West Seneca Bee, and Hamburg Sun. Following that, 3 o'clock is the Ampole Eagle. Stay with us. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book,